Welcome back to Spooky Stories. For the next 10 days leading up to Halloween, I'll be sharing spooky stories, but not always spooky, from books within the collections at Seton Hall University, along with the strange and sometimes just downright weird of collections. I hope you enjoy. Welcome to day 2 of Spooky Stories, and I'll be reading Mujina. And please excuse any mispronunciations in the story and in the following commentary. On the Akasaka Road in Tokyo, there's a slope called the Ki no Kunozaka, which means the slope of the province of Ki. I do not know why it is called the slope of the province of Ki. On one side of this slope, you see an ancient moat, deep and very wide, with high green banks rising up to same place of gardens. And on the other side of the road extend the long and lofty walls of an imperial palace. Before the era of street lamps and jinrikishas, this neighborhood was very lonesome after dark, and belated pedestrians would go miles out of their way rather than mount the Ki no Kunozaka alone after sunset. All because of a Mujina that used to walk there. The last man who saw the Mujina was an old merchant of the Kiyobasha quarter, who died about 30 years ago. This is his story as he told it. One night, at a late hour, he was hurrying up the Ki no Kunozaka when he perceived a woman crouching by the moat, all alone and weeping bitterly. Fearing that she intended to drown herself, he stopped to offer her any assistance or consolation in his power. She appeared to be a slight and graceful person, handsomely dressed, and her hair was arranged like that of a young girl of good family. "Ojuwachu," he exclaimed, approaching her. "Ojuwachu, do not cry like that. Tell me, what is the trouble? And if there be any way to help you, I shall be glad to help you." He really meant what he said, for he was a very kind man. But she continued to weep, hiding her face from him with one of her long sleeves. "Ojuwachu," he said again, as gently as he could. Please listen to me. This is no place for a young lady at night. Do not cry, I implore you. Only tell me how I may be of some help to you." Slowly she rose up, but turned her back to him, and continued to moan and sob behind her sleeve. He laid his hand lightly upon her shoulder and pleaded, "Ojuwachu, Ojuwachu, Ojuwachu. Listen to me, just for one little moment. Ojuwachu, Ojuwachu." Then that Ojuwachu turned round and dropped her sleeve and stroked her face with her hand, and the man saw that she had no eyes or nose or mouth, and he screamed and ran away. Up the Ki no Kunozaka he ran, and all was black and empty before him. On and on he ran, never daring to look back. And at last he saw a lantern so far away that it looked like the gleam of a firefly, and he made for it. It proved to be only the lantern of an itinerant soba seller who had set down his stand by the roadside. But any light and any human companionship were good after that experience, and he flung himself down at the feet of the soba seller, crying out, "Ah, ah, ah." "Kior, Kior," roughly exclaimed the soba man. "Here, what is the matter with you? Anybody hurt?" "No, nobody hurt me," panted the other. "Only, ah, ah." "Only scared you?" queried the peddler unsympathetically. "Robbers?" Not robbers, gasped the terrified man. I saw a woman by the moat, and she showed me... I cannot tell you for what she showed me." Was it anything like this that she showed you?" cried the soba man, stroking his own face, which therewith became like unto an egg, and simultaneously the light went out. So this story was taken from Kwaidan, Stories and Studies of Strange Things by Patrick Lafcadio Hearn. It was printed for the members of the Limited Editions Club by the Shimby Shoin Limited in New York, New York in 1932. Now its production is just quite simply a work of art. From its binding, that is classic stick and stitch binding, to its cover, or almost like a slipcase like design with little toggles that keep it closed, thus protecting the book, and the pages itself. So it's just quite beautiful looking. Quite a lot of care went into producing it and making it. Now, Patrick Lafcadio Hearn was a Greek and Irish writer, translator, and teacher who introduced the culture and literature of Japan to the Western world. He did eventually move to Japan and even went on to become a Japanese citizen. And he really was quite the world traveler. He even stopped through the United States before he ultimately settled in Japan. And this story is about a noparabu, which is part of Japanese folklore. A noparabu is a faceless yokai that looks like a human but has no face, and a yokai is a class of supernatural entity and spirit in Japanese folklore. Now, they are primarily known just to frighten humans and are usually otherwise harmless. They appear at first as ordinary human beings, impersonating someone familiar before causing their features to completely disappear, leaving behind a blank, smooth skin devoid of any facial features, as what happened in the story. Now, these entities are also, they also might do a double scare. So they'll scare you first, and then they'll scare you again, as is also what happened in our story. The character was first scared by the lady at the stream, and then by the seller later on as he was running away. Now, Hearn most likely made up the noparabu, or at least put his own spin on it, as many authors do with various folk tales that they find, because a noparabu would not actually exist, but it is more so the disguise of a Mujina, a kitsune, or a tenku, which are shape-shifting creatures. So in the case of the Mujina, it is actually a badger. So the badger would have taken the form or disguise of a human and then pulled off the whole removing the face trick. And I was trying to think of some equivalents, but everything I did always had the intention of harming. As I said, this entity purely just wants to lure people in just to scare them and potentially do a double scare. Compared to many other entities, it is quite innocent. At least, that once he scares you, that's it. Or, maybe you have to deal with another scare, as they do like to double scare people. But after that, you're safe and you're okay, and that no harm actually would come to you from these entities. Well, that is it for this episode. Thanks for tuning in. And that is it for today's episode of Spooky Stories. If you have enjoyed Spooky Stories, be sure to share and follow us on social media at SHU_libraries. Until next time, keep your curiosity alive, and remember, the library holds more than just books. Some stories may linger long after the lights go out.